Welcome back to PPCM's Painful Truth. Today's guest, Ife Adebowale.
Greetings to you, beautiful. How are you?
Greetings to you.
I'm doing well. Thank you so very much for asking.
Yeah, I'm
You are
so
gorgeous.
Oh, so are you. I love the greenery in the background, and you look beautiful as well.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn my volume up so I can hear you. Hold on a
Okay, and
second.
I'm gonna go see if I can get in a quieter room if possible. Let's see.
Let me see. Can I hear you now?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Excellent.
Hi.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you for connecting with me.
Yes, ma'am.
Here today and being present. I spoken to you in the past. This was, I believe, in the summertime.
Yes, ma'am.
And I wanted to, in person, just give my deepest condolences to the situation of having to experience learning about peripartum cardiomyopathy with the loss of your sister-in-law. Could you
Yes, ma'am.
please be her voice today? What she would, say if she was here about what has transpired, and could you please let me know what city and state that you're located in, and what year and how old was she when she had peripartum cardiomyopathy?
Okay, so my sister-in-law name was Rashay Willis. Rashay was, and I do apologize. I think Rashay was 28, if I'm not mistaken, but please forgive me if that age is incorrect. But this was an experience that, of course, none of us was aware of. I'm actually a doula, and I wasn't aware of this condition until you brought it to me. So, first of all, I would like to stop and thank you for your awareness and, all the hard work that you're doing to promote and let people know about this, because if I had been educated prior to, there might have been something that I could have done to save my sister's life. But because I wasn't, it wasn't anything that I could do outside of just trying to figure it out, as a doula, what went wrong. So it was actually a blessing to meet you and to get a grasp and a full understanding of the condition and what actually happened to my sister-in-law. This occurred last year in April of 2021. So we are actually coming up on our 1-year anniversary of her transition. And her baby boy, who she birthed, Rafiq, he just had his first birthday, February the 13th.
Yes. Thank you for recognizing that this is a painful conversation, because I promote and believe in the NT-proBNP test.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that with early diagnosis, as well as not just what I believe, but with medical backup, medical proof.
Right.
From the IPAC Research Lab at the University of Pittsburgh, Dr. James Fett, Dr. Dennis McNamara have proven that the NT-proBNP test will determine a woman who has peripartum cardiomyopathy, PPCM, preeclampsia, which is the two diagnosis of the SFLT1, and the PIGF, which is the cardiotoxic fluid mixed with the placental growth. The placental growth factor determines the woman's health.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do everything perfect, Like, I've been always a healthy, like, no heart problems my entire life, very healthy. But that doesn't matter, because when you're pregnant, you can get pregnancy induced complications. Some women don't show signs, a lot of women do.
Right.
And you can only, I interview women who had a beautiful pregnancy, a beautiful birth, no signs, nothing, no symptoms, fine, natural birth. And when she, 2 months after giving birth to her baby, she was breastfeeding, and her husband had to give her CPR, and she had a cardiac arrest. And they diagnosed her as a peripartum cardiomyopathy. And that was very powerful, because it really, that interview shows that you can look at a girl and not assume that she's okay. You have to test the blood. And the person who does test the blood is the obstetrician. And they're the ones, now if they don't do it, you find an internal medicine doctor. The internal medicine doctor will give you a cardiologist, and the cardiologist will do. So there are certain steps that must be taken in order to get this test, because it's not known. People don't know that it's only $15 out of pocket. And, it's unfortunate that it's not something that's in the standard testings with all pregnancies, since it's the only early diagnosis. Could you tell me?
Interesting that you mentioned that, because I've been educating my mothers on everything that the
Wonderful
messages that you, or the posts that you put out on Facebook. I share those on my personal doula page, as well as share this information with my clients. I've actually had a few clients that have asked their doctors for the test, and based on their conditions, they told them that it wasn't necessary.
And that is extremely, extremely common in America. Extremely. And actually, I say this in the last few interviews, but I'm going to tell you because you didn't hear it. There is a woman that saved my life at UCLA, and she's on the board, and she can't. Her daughter had a baby, and she's been trying to get the BNP test, the NT-proBNP test, and she went to an obstetrician. She did go to these doctors, and she was denied the test. Right. So this is extremely common. And then to find out on my post the other day, which I discovered, is that that feline cats have a SNAP Pro BNP for health risk early diagnosis for heart health for felines.
Are you serious?
I posted it. It looks like a pregnancy test.
I'm going to have to go check your page out. I haven't seen it.
Yeah. And so I'll send it to you too. But it's a few down, because yesterday was an interview, and I have interviews, so I post them usually through the Painful Truth. But yes, the COVID-19 test looks like a pregnancy test. So the thread of creating the NT-proBNP test is there. And it has been known.
Right.
And, excuse me, heart failure, not COVID, but it's not applied in humans. And so here I am trying to educate not just the medical community, but the wheelhouse of birthing, right, like doulas and midwives. And I've messaged you in the past where people have called me like, spam, you're not using the right approach. They don't give me an approach to use. I mean, the only approach that I can do is give educational, life-saving information.
Right.
And I'm not sure when, informative information became fearful instead of, awareness for
Right.
prevention.
Right.
Maybe you can, I don't know what the training and books indicate as a doula, but do you have do you have like something that indicates in the field of birth keeping about peripartum cardiomyopathy in the training,
No, ma'am.
in the curriculum?
No, ma'am. When I told you that this was the very first time that I've heard of the condition, I was being very honest. In my studies, that is not what we're taught. Of course, we're taught about different pregnancy complications,
Sure, absolutely.
but that is nowhere near, nowhere near the radar. So it's not spoken about in the birth community, not in the community that I'm in. Again, prior to meeting you, I haven't seen any type of posts, awareness, information about the condition. So to my knowledge, I can't speak on everybody's, but to my knowledge, no, ma'am, there's nothing in the curriculum to inform, advise, or anything, to bring about awareness of this condition.
Yes. And do you guys refer back to the ACOG?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so with the ACOG referring to their curriculum, I mean, I if you do go to their page, I have seen.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It says who they support. And they support a huge, long list. But PPCM, peripartum cardiomyopathy, is not on that list. But they do support postpartum depression, which I was part of advocating for that bill to go through, because women with peripartum cardiomyopathy suffer terribly from postpartum depression.
Really?
And oh gosh, it's awful. Every woman, I mean, you cannot come back from death or being suffered, not listening to as a woman, and like told that she's like crazy. And the issue is that when women are having heart failure during pregnancy, they say that it's anxiety. But then let's say you live and like me and every other PPCM survivor, we have heart palpitations. And so we're like, oh my gosh, we're like, it's heart failure because we had heart failure when they told us we had anxiety, but now we're really having anxiety, not heart failure. So there's a confusion now with women not trusting their body because they were trusting their doctors. And it's the fear of like dying, when you have a baby growing inside of you and you're dying, and then you have a cardiac arrest or something like that, and then you don't know if you're going to live. Right. So, this is extremely common. And now going back to the education, I did, and if you want to read it, I did send you just now the actual study. Let me get it over here. And if you want to read it, this is something that you should, I can't do it. This is something that you should include in your training. This is very important. I know it sounds weird because there's a lot of, codes to learn, like the TTN gene. And, it's very important. And if you want to read it, I can't see without my glasses, and I don't have my glasses. But why don't you read that, since you're a doula and you can be educating this with me.
Okay, so it's very possible to lessen symptoms. Some cardiologists recommend that PPCM and preeclampsia moms take BB throughout subsequent pregnancies. These are currently known susceptibility to PPCM genes, known whether father or mother, SFLT-1 gene, RS25841 at chromosome 12p11.ss, TTN gene, Titan mutation, TT truncating variant, GNB3TT gnome type, especially with African heritage. We are still in the knowledge scale of things, so there will be more identified as time goes along.
Exactly. Thank you for reading that, because there's so much that, you know, we don't know, and and that's very confusing. Do you know what I'm saying? That's not something that is, you know, it's difficult to understand that, and what that all means. And you know, and that's actually quoted from like Dr. Fett, you know. This is something that and I will send you, you know, more on that, on that subject. There, and so it's basically, where is this? There is, and we'll get back to that. Let me see if I can find something. How old, you said she was 28 years old. She was never diagnosed.
No, ma'am.
And when you found out about this, how did they, what happened? How did it happen? Like, what was her moments before? Like, what was her, like, moments before? Like, did she, like, just take us through of what you can remember, and how, and what she would want.
Well, what's interesting
for awareness?
What's interesting is, prior to this happening, she had begun swelling. And she went in to the doctor, you know, and you know, they kind of mentioned eclampsia, you know, and just told her to, you know, elevate. It could be possibly water retention, but, you know, it was never anything, you know. It was serious to me because, one, you're postpartum, you shouldn't be swelling like this. But, you know, they just kind of made it like, well, you know, your body's getting back adjusted to everything, and, you know, you may have a little bit of water retention, you know, go home, soak your feet, you know, kick them up, and, you know, hopefully everything will be well. If not, come back. Unfortunately, you know, we didn't get a chance to go back. Later on, a couple of days later on, the evening, she had stated that she wasn't feeling well. You know, and we didn't think anything of it. She just stated that she wasn't feeling well. She went in and, you know, she laid down, and that evening she ended up having a seizure.
That's exactly what happened to me. A lot of swelling. You know,
Really?
I was 105 pounds. To my time of death, called 3 months after giving birth to my son, I was 200 pounds. And so if you have any pictures, I would really love to include, but I don't know if you can see this or not.
No, ma'am, I can't see it well.
Let me see, I'll show you.
Okay, I see it now.
So this was me before, right before, actually like the week that I got pregnant,
Oh,
basically.
wow. Okay.
This was the day that I had a stroke and full of fluid.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. But yes, and
And
actually, let me also mention this as well. She passed a blood clot. That was another reason why we actually went in. She passed a blood clot that was larger or as the size of a golf ball.
see,
So
that's what
with
I had as well. It was
really,
yeah, it was huge. They said it was 1 out of 200, and it's rare to have
really,
that blood clot. So as you can see, like there is a similarity, the swelling and I mean, was she always like, how much swelling did she have? Did she have a lot of swelling? Was it visible in the face? Was it visible?
no, she actually didn't start swelling until towards the end of pregnancy.
Mhm.
Just very little. It wasn't a lot, but
Okay.
it was enough for me to come over and make sure that her lower extremities were, the blood was flowing. So I would come in and rub her lower extremities and rub her feet to ensure that the blood was flowing.
Sure.
Because at the end of pregnancy we do swell a little bit, so it wasn't anything alarming at the time, but again afterwards she really began to swell.
Right.
So yes,
Because
ma'am.
it does it peaks, and it peaks after 5 weeks after childbirth, or right after, or sooner.
Right.
But this has to do with the infection. The infection is not treated there. So when an infection is not treated, it gets worse.
Right.
And so the fluid caused everything, because that's what suffocated the heart, which
Right.
caused the heart to enlarge. Right? She had an enlarged heart.
Right. And that's how they explained it to us, that during her pregnancy her heart enlarged, and after pregnancy I guess it deflated, or I can't remember,
Weakened.
but it was in
It
that.
weakened.
Yes, it weakened.
Yeah.
So, I couldn't understand it. It didn't make sense until I met you, Lindsay. I mean, that's all to it.
Well, what's really sad is that what you're saying is actually extremely, extremely common. And it's sad because in America we have zero diagnosis or training or education in the wheelhouse of pregnancy and all around. But it's so easily preventable as early as 10 weeks pregnant with the awareness of the NT-proBNP test. And I feel like if there was more awareness and there was, more training, like even 20 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation for the first time, when women have been giving birth since the beginning of time. And, it's not ancient. And I just feel like there are very specific awareness of statistics. We can't base this on the United States because we don't have diagnosis. So we have to base it on a global standpoint. So globally, it's every 3 minutes, a young, healthy girl with no heart problems gets a pregnancy-induced complication that's called peripartum cardiomyopathy. In 2022, in the 1800s, they called it childbirth fever. But all it is it's basically a fluid infection that literally suffocates the heart. Again, there are ways that can be treated. There's, beta blockers, one's called Cori. There's latex, there's magnesium drips. There's a lot of things to lower that NT-proBNP test below 300, because that's the goal, is below 300 for the NT-proBNP test. And it's almost as if self-advocacy now has to come and play with every pregnancy, because, I would suggest, collaborating with a like a LabCorp and see if you can give every single woman an NT Pro, and it only costs $15 out of pocket. So if you were to collaborate with like with a lab, and you say, I'm a doula and I have a company, this is something that, would make you more secured, not to scare, but to be aware that women's history for health and wellness during pregnancy changes now. It's time to update it now. I feel like also, which is really sad, is that if you do live, a lot of women need a heart transplant. The statistics is 1 in 20 PPCM is responsible for 1 in 20 heart transplants in the US. And that
1 in 20. Wow.
Yes. And it's very expensive. And it's all preventable. So if PPCM is responsible, but it's medically proven that no woman should ever have to go through that, then that statistic should be 0. So I feel like, your sister-in-law is just, I want to say her name,
We call her Penda.
Penda?
Yes, which means woman of love.
Oh.
But her name is Rashay Willis.
Well, Rashay is a beautiful angel right now that is literally moving mountains with us. I believe that. I believe that she somehow organically brought you and I together.
Yes.
And she wants the word out.
Yes.
And I feel so like my heart goes out to her baby, goes out. I mean, I did, I the fund, I know gave something to the baby and
yes,
to
that
the
helps
dad.
so much.
But I feel like there's like, my heart goes out to your brother. How is your brother coping with this like rug pulled out from underneath him?
It's really hard because him and his sister were super close. It's a one day at a time.
Okay.
Some days are great days. Some days it's just, we just fighting through to make it through to the next. So extremely hard. And, mom has all 3 of the boys, but we will be getting 2 of the boys to assist mom because she got the little baby. So it's been hard for everybody, but I must say that, like you said, she's guiding us and protecting us from the other side, and I truly believe that. And as you just stated, it wasn't a coincidence that you and I have connected. And as I've always told you from the very first time we talked, if there's anything I can do, I don't know if you have brochures or pamphlets, but if it's some information that I can put together to be able to go to different.
I have been designing a PowerPoint presentation, and there's a few more graphs that I want to include on that and a few more things, but it's pretty much done. And you can educate everybody through the PowerPoint presentation. I do have downloadable flyers on the website. If you go to ppcmfund.com and you go to like the hamburger bar, it says educational and it says downloadable flyers. We will always update. I will update, new information that we need to be aware of that can, if this is medically proven, and that's what we have to back this up. is the medical proof and the studies. And
Right.
it's 100% mentioned over and over again by cardiologists that understand this, like Dr. Carol Watson at UCLA. She says when a woman is diagnosed 35 years old, waiting on a heart transplant, after childbirth, had heart failure, or anything's mentioned, she says it's heartbreaking because it's all preventable. And so women in America are being diagnosed at a life threat in the ER and not diagnosed during pregnancy. And so, yeah, I mean, we could definitely, move mountains together, because, this is women coming together on this is what needs to happen. And I've been trying my hardest in every approach whatsoever with, the birth community. And it's really sad. Like, it's really hard to hear, I take it personal because I did have my times of death called. And then I feel guilty when I hear, women, beautiful women that don't make it from this disease, and it could have been prevented. And here I'm trying my hardest to just get people to understand and listen, that care for newborns. I interview women all the time who have lost their baby a year after giving birth because PPCM sometimes cause prematurity, autism. We are all studies, and so are our babies. And we don't know how this really affects our babies and how it's going to affect our grandchildren. And that code that you read, the mutation gene, that's in African-American women, that when you're born, it's just like, I'm Jewish. So I had to have all my tests done, but they all, even with all the tests that I had, because I had extra tests because I'm Jewish, they still didn't. And I had it very early too. So it wasn't even in that test, to test my blood for that.
Right.
And, they test mutation genes. It's because the only test that will determine is the NT-proBNP test. And women are getting refused even asking for it, and they're not giving it, and women don't know to ask for it even. So this is where you and I together creating this pregnancy movement, because it's being developed.
Right.
With women coming together. And I'm having a really hard time connecting with birth keepers to take this seriously and not be fearful of informative, life-saving information that should have been applied like 100 years ago. It's just awareness. It's in our blood.
Right.
It's not made from a lab.
And it only makes sense to me. We take all these different type of genetic testing and things of that nature when we're going through our prenatals anyways. If this is a $15 test, what is the pushback on it? As far as, let's get this preventive measure out here, because that's what it is. I mean, if the government can pay for birth control pills to prevent women from having babies, why can't you pay for a preventive measure that will prevent women from dying? I mean,
and I don't understand why they want to go artificial intelligence with a new heart. They're going ANI like the UK. Okay.
Well,
this is the Mayo Clinic.
You just said something.
But why go there? Why not just have the NT-proBNP test? Why go artificial when we already have the prevention that's actually inside of us? It's our blood. It's awareness. So why go to that extent when this is such an easy, practical solution to a very serious problem? And I don't understand, why the COVID test is like a pregnancy test. You
Right.
it's like it is. And then you have the feline test. It looks like a pregnancy test, and it's the
Right.
exact same thread. So I really don't understand. See, this is what it looks like.
Oh, wow.
Can you see it? Let me see if I can blow it up.
Yes, it looks like a pregnancy test.
Looks like a pregnancy test. And look what it says.
Okay, I can't see that writing.
Hold on. Maybe if I hold it up in front of me.
It's my glare. I see something in
Pro.
Yeah, I see Pro BNP.
Yep.
Where do you get those? Like, can you buy those?
This is what it says. Snap Feline Pro.
Oh, that's for the cat.
BMP quickly assesses cats with cardiac risk factors. Test apparently healthy cats considered at risk for cardiac disease, murmur, breed, history. Cats with respiratory signs can help rule out cardiac cause as an adult cat prior, and it goes on and on and on and on and on.
Wow.
On and on about
how it's a preventer for heart disease or heart conditions.
Yeah, you could do it right at home, like a pregnancy test.
Wow.
So the thread is there. And it really is. It's mind-blowing that here you and I are really trying to advocate for pregnancies. You dedicate your life. It seems as if that you live, breathe, and sleep a beautiful, joyful birth for each woman.
Right.
And that's what we want justice and to demand. This is what the BNP test looks like, or not the BNP, COVID-19 test.
Right.
So I was taking this because my son has martial arts. So again, this looks like a pregnancy test.
Right.
So as you can see, the thread is available to create the NT-Pro BNP test for women as well. And then we can lessen the death rate by 0, because there should be 0 suffering and 0 maternal mortality from preeclampsia. That's really peripartum cardiomyopathy, PPCM. It's the same treatment, the same blood tests. And I sent you something. Why don't you read? And that's what it will save, the statistics.
All right.
I can't. Today, my eyes are really weird. I can't even focus.
So here are a few unsettling stats. Cardiovascular disease kills nearly 50,000 African-American women annually. Of African-American women ages 20 and older, 49% have heart disease. Only 1 in 5 African-American women believe she is personally at risk. Only 52% of African-American women are aware of the signs and symptoms of a heart attack. Only 36% of African-American women know that heart disease is their greatest health risk. Hashtag Go Red, hashtag National Wear Red Day, hashtag PPCM, hashtag Survivor, hashtag Heart Transplant.
Yeah. So
those are some very alarming facts. Statistics.
Very alarming. And to find out that it's all preventable with awareness is it's beyond heartbreaking. It's unacceptable. It's appalling. And I don't know the right approach to approach, um, birth workers. The wheelhouse, the women, the statistics need to change. And it's as if you and I were meant to come together. And I do believe her life is definitely, valued still, because I believe that in the transformation, we don't die. It's energy that always lives on. And her energy is creating,
Exactly.
this big ball of light of like awareness. And I
Right.
truly, truly believe that, or I would not, I don't think, I would be here today, you know, without getting the word out, and for her. And what,
Right.
what special qualities did she have? Like, who was she? Like, what was her character like?
Well, my sister-in-law, again, her name was Penda, so that kind of explains her completely. She was a woman that lived in love. She walked in love. She was a homeschool mom. I well, I want to start with she went through a lot of trauma growing up. So, she had to find herself as a woman. But once she did, again, she was just very loving and caring. She was a stay-at-home mom. She homeschooled her 2 boys, and was so eager to become a birth doula. She was training up under my organization. Actually was just about to finish class and do her final presentation when she got sick. Or when things transpire. Uh, just just a beautiful spirit, like she tried to stay optimistic about life, very positive. She actually assisted me within my spiritual journey, because again, she had a lot of walking to do within that path of spirituality to find where she wanted to be in life. And I just felt like this robbed her of that, because she was just getting her feet firm on the ground, and getting where she wanted to go, and understanding what it was that she wanted to do as a woman, and as a wife. And she had just gotten married, and everything was just flowing for her. And this one incident that we weren't aware of that could have been prevented, it just shook everything up. So
Yeah. I'm very sorry. Yeah, I mean, she sounds just like somebody I would really like to know. I'm very sorry that she didn't get to execute her woman mission. And hopefully, as we learn more, because
yes,
we always, this is new. We sometimes I say things and I might have to backpedal. Oh, I just found out something else. That wasn't right what
right,
I said, but I thought that it was. Like, it's almost as if like putting this piece together, this puzzle, this woman global conundrum of
right,
of the suffering. It can be prevented, because it's not just the woman, it's the families that are suffering.
exactly,
And I know she has peace on the other side. And my mom, she passed 4 months after my heart procedure. I was next to her bedside after I suffered. It's disease kills everybody. It's a very suffering. It can, walking pneumonia, stress can kill.
right,
And the
right,
family, we can't forget that this could have been all prevented And you and I, like, we are preventing this from another family to ever have to go through this. Your
Right.
brother, you know, should have his beautiful, you know, his wife that just, you know, just was the light of love of her being, and he just deserves, you know, justice.
Right.
I feel, but we'll never have it because it's she's not here.
Right.
You know, so it's like
Right.
it's endless grief, and I'm so
Yes.
sorry for that. And I feel like that's why I started this platform, so she would have a voice. She'd still, her
Right.
voice continues. You know, her voice continues as, you know, a beacon of demanding that whether you're in the medical community, that whether you're a woman and you're not in the medical community, a healthy woman, a young woman, anywhere in the world, that the NT-Pro BNP test, and no matter what age you are, you have to know your number
Right.
and what that number means, like the elevation of levels that are crushing your heart, you know, and it can determine a lot. It can rule out heart failure, and it could possibly be cancer. You know, it can rule it can find other things that are happening inside the body. And I believe that with awareness, it can be preventable to a lot of suffering and and pain surrounding something that should be so beautiful and joyful, as you know. um,
Right.
I was definitely robbed of that. And you're right, she was very much robbed, and it sucks. Sorry. And I'm sorry that
Yes.
she's,
Yes, it does.
it's just, there's no words.
But so like I said, Miss Lindsay, it's I I believe in divine happening. I believe things happen because God and the Creator, the Most High, whoever you believe in, the universe, ancestors, they guide things to ensure that we see, that we're knowledgeable, that we know. And I just feel like her life isn't in vain because of you. Because of you, I will be able to keep her name alive by taking this condition and bringing awareness to the community. And I have my sister to not necessarily piggyback on, but this is a real life experience. This is what happened to me. This is what happened to my sister. So
This
I
is a
she'll live
big part of the
forever.
movement.
I
This
my
is, yeah, a big part of the pregnancy movement. You are, your family, this baby, her. She's going to change
Yes.
history. She will change history for women and in women's
Yes,
heart
ma'am.
and wellness. And not me, not you, her, because
Exactly.
she is proof on the other side, and I am proof on this side. And
Right.
exactly,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I
Oh, I
believe
thank you
in
so much, Lindsay.
thank you. And I want to hear about this baby and his journey. And you know, we, we're all studies here, you know, so
Yes.
as we know
Now, I
more.
can tell you that grandma went and got the baby tested. I'm not sure what type of heart testing that she got, but she did go take all the
Wonderful.
boys and went and got their hearts checked and everything checked out. But I'm not sure if, it was the correct test. But I do know she did make an effort to check their hearts.
So there's there's three tests that always need to be applied that's why I said raising the standard screening labs and testings. And I feel like this should be
Gotcha.
applied for PPCM babies. One, the NT-proBNP test, 100%. We don't know what that fluid, when that baby is eating, taking all that from the, basically being fed off of mommy for a month. PPCM usually starts to show signs around, the last month of pregnancy. Some show signs. For me, it was around about 15 weeks pregnant. But it's basically, you wonder how this affects the baby because they're getting that nutrients from mommy.
Right.
And women who breastfeed with women who are PPCM and it peaks after and they don't know that they're feeding their baby that antibodies. Fluid,
the toxins in the blood.
And there are medications that are safe for pregnancy for breastfeeding. There's a whole there's like Dr. Fett mentions a lot about that with women and breastfeeding with that were PPCM, and that's okay. But to not be treated and to breastfeed, you're feeding your baby. So when I hear a lot of breastfeeding posts with women that are in the wheelhouse, birth keepers once again, and I worry because it's like, okay, well, you just don't have the baby, and then that's it, because the baby is now breastfeeding from from the mommy. And this is something that's very scary to me when I hear that there's a possible breastfeeding and there's not really much awareness on PPCM, because then that's when the baby comes into maybe something, you're feeding infection, and I'm actually sending you what Dr. Fett says, and you don't have to read it if you don't want to, but this is something that I'm going to share as we're on the phone, so then that way you can also include this. And again, I'm going to put this all in this is all in the PowerPoint presentation that I have.
Yes, ma'am.
But this is very good information for you to know, because it talks about here, I don't know if you can see, talks about breastfeeding, cellular immune, for recovery and peripartum cardiomyopathy. So there is a lot of information that they have developed that is very safe and for a baby. But if there's no awareness and you don't have the awareness, then it's not good, as you know.
Right.
If there's anything that pops out on you that you want to read from what I just sent you just now, I'm trying to give you as much information as we're talking, because I feel like
right now I can't read anything because I'm actually having to go pick up my daughter from her robotics meeting.
Yes.
But I am listening, so I do apologize. I forgot she had a meeting today.
No worries. That's okay. We can you look at that later, and I would love to have another interview with you on maybe even like if you want to coordinate a Zoom training course at all with a few women, or if there's like a little video that we can make that you can share with all your, you can have before your, with each woman to make it easy, like maybe like a little intro of the awareness, not to scare, but to be aware and just to be informed always.
Right.
Things like that. We can talk about things that I think should have been already somewhat provided. And I can help you with that if you need help with that,
Okay.
on how you want to approach it. Again, I don't have all the answers. I don't have, we're developing this. So, what theories we have today might be changed tomorrow, depending on on what we know and what we don't know. So, is there anything that you would like to add about just before I let you go
Well,
about this disease?
the only thing that I would like to say is that it's very important that all birth workers within the community, as well as hospital staff, doctors, OBs, that are working with Mother Earth, or, I know politically incorrect, but just flow with me. We have to get on board. To me, it just feels like it's more about money than preventive measures, because if it was about prevention, if it's only $15, I just cannot wrap my mind around the fact that, you'd rather spend billions of dollars on a market for hearts opposed to $15 per test, to ensure that a Mother Earth will continue to stay Earthside as well as her baby, due to heart conditions. So I just think it's very important that, people get out of their pockets, and actually start caring about what they went into the healthcare field for, and that is to save lives.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you say that, because even like when I say to people, and I was doing this for a while, if you have a birthday, choose my nonprofit. Lives are priceless. And it's not even about, money for me or anything. I'm not even being paid for this platform. I'm
Right.
raising money to help women that need a life vest, that need advocacy, that their baby's still inside of them, and labor and delivery has zero awareness. And it's like, this is not about this is not about money. This is about
Right.
awareness. This is about education. This is about change, real change for women and women's pregnancy and wellness. And yes, the American Heart Association makes a ton of money, and they have known this for decades. We have women survivors that work for them and have worked for them and tried to spread the awareness. They've raised a lot of money for them, but again, they're not doing anything to educate the public. And
Exactly.
that's what's really, I'm not blaming anybody, and I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just saying that, and I love the American Heart Association, but then I also wonder, well, in a sense, it hurts me because what we don't know can't hurt us. And saying that they've known this in their, we have known about this for over 20 years. We've seen the different, but then nothing has been, and I'm interviewing women over 10, 15 years ago, trying to educate the American Heart Association, working with them and everything, and still not having a good experience. I tried spreading the awareness with them. I said, I'll even pay you. I'll even set up a booth. If it had anything, if it was, they would not even let me set up a booth to spread the awareness. And so that I have a hard time because it's like I want to love them because they're American Heart Association, but then I'm like, well, why can't they love us back?
Right.
You know, and like and it's not about money. It's about using your voice. It's about speaking up. It's about saying the NT-proBNP test is the early diagnosis that saves lives for young women with pregnancy-induced heart failures.
Right. Right. Can you imagine that alone being put on their page, and how many lives that would save if they did that?
Over 20 years ago. And that's why I'm like, I know a lot of women, they won't say it, they won't speak it because they're like, they want the platform to help them, but are they really helping? Because it's been over a decade, and they're like, no, they didn't. The ACOG, no. And it's like, I feel like at this point, my life was taken from me, ripped out of my, from underneath me. I had cardiac death. I had experienced, what most women experience through maternal mortality, and I lived. But like your sister-in-law, she didn't. And it's like, I fight for her. I fight for all women, that I will speak up. I will have to say, I will be the bad guy. I'll say what maybe most people feel like they can't say. Because I feel like if there is a COVID-19 test so available, and there's a pro-BNP test for feline cats so available, and it's the same thread, why can't it be available for women?
Exactly.
And you're right. It probably does come down to money.
Sad, but we're in a capitalist society, and regardless of whether it's birth or death, it's money all around it. So unfortunately.
Well, it doesn't take money to have I always say, I could teach it to you, but I can't learn it for you.
Right.
And I think that's the choice that every woman should have. At least have the education to say whether or not I want to know or not know. But having the education of knowing is mandatory. It's for us women. It should be mandatory.
Yes, ma'am. I definitely agree.
I see you're micromanaging the seatbelt, the car, the everything. What would she want to say? What would her words be today if she was to speak?
Would have survived, she would be an advocate, just like I'm planning on being with you, to get the awareness out, because another woman should not lose her life over something, especially when it's preventative. So I think she would be grateful to be Earthside, but she would definitely be in the front lines fighting.
Yeah. And if you're, I don't know if I know like this happened around COVID. This happened around COVID, right?
Yes, ma'am. Right before it hit. Right before, February here in Columbus. It was around February when everything began to, was that the year before? Hold on, I'm trying to think of my year. It was it last year when COVID hit, or was it the year before?
It's 2020. March 2020 was when the pandemic.
So
yeah,
yes, yes, most definitely COVID, because I couldn't be there at the hospital. Yes, it was COVID. I was virtually present with her during her labor.
And okay, so I do real quick question now that I was putting that. How do you think that played, like, do you think that hurt her more so because they might have thought that she was having, COVID symptoms?
I don't think so.
You don't remember? No? Okay.
And honestly, Lindsay, my sister was a very natural woman. So she went to a few prenatals, but she was one of the women that wanted to have a home birth, wanted to keep everything natural. So, even though we know there weren't any preventive testing, she did go in and, get the testing, the genetic testing and all that to make sure the baby was well and everything. But outside of that, she did not, I was her caregiver. I had a registered nurse that would come in and check her vitals to ensure that she was well. And, I did my thing with the prenatals and just providing education. So me personally, I think because of that, because women that are having home births, natural births, they get ridiculed at the hospital, and her water broke at home. I'm the doula that if your water has broke and it's been broken for 24 hours and we haven't had any progression, we're going to transfer to the hospital because you're open and susceptible to infection. So that's what happened. We started laboring at home. Nothing was really happening. So after 24 hours, she went to the hospital. She ended up having a C-section, which was definitely not the plan. So she did not have the birth that she wanted. And again, once she got home, having to heal from a C-section and, the swelling had started and things of that nature, and us not being aware, it just kind of, like you said, it just kind of slowly until she had she went into seizure mode.
Yeah. And that's actually it's common, whether you're a woman that it's being like, basically, whether you're a woman that wants the holistic birthing, and we all do, we all want that beautiful birth.
Mm-hmm.
There is a huge correlation between C-section and PPCM, because with fluid comes infection.
Right.
Once you cut that, the fluid just starts expanding because the infection is getting worse.
Right.
So it is one of those realities as a birth worker. And I'm wondering, now that I've been talking to you, as you're talking, I have my son's birth on video, and he was extremely it looked like he came out of a spa. He didn't have a speck of blood. Did you notice a difference in when she gave birth? I mean, I think if it was in the bathtub, you wouldn't know if there was any blood, or was there like more fluid? Is there a difference between each pregnancy when you're delivering that? Because I hear sometimes if it's a little green, that shows the infection. If there's a lot of fluid and a lot of water, that shows signs of PPCM. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen the difference between delivering on what the baby looks like, if it looks like it's got no blood on it?
Well, with the home births that I've experienced, most of the babies come with no blood on them. They just have, some of them are full of the vernix, which is the cheesy-like substance, or little at all. But as far as the blood, out of
I thought that played a part. I thought that played, like, that they should have known, like, there was no blood on him. But then, what do I know? I'm not a birth worker. So keep her.
Right. So yeah, that's interesting. And now that I think about it, yeah, with my babies, my home birth babies, it's barely any blood on them now that I think about it.
Okay.
Should there be a lot of blood on them, or?
Yeah, like I've noticed that a lot of the healthier, pregnancies, this is just from my observation. I'm not a birth professional by any means. I don't know. But I've noticed that there is a difference. There are signs of the fluid, the color, the amount. There are signs, but we just don't know to look for them. They talk about that. There's an actually study going on. It's called Rebirth. I think that's one of the studies that's included at the center at the IPAC research lab. I believe Dr. James Fett mentioned it, but and I don't, I'm so much is information, but I have talked to many different women that have shared different experiences, and I would walk up to like a woman that had a very healthy pregnancy, no PPCM whatsoever, and they would be like, "Oh, he's a bloody mess," or yeah, there was a lot of blood, or yeah, he was covered, they had to wash him, so I'm like, oh, okay, well,
Okay.
and then the women that have been, experiencing pregnancy induced complications, they have told me, and it's not just PPCM, it'd be like women on the preeclampsia group as well, after they've given birth, or before, I would say, can you just know what the if when the baby comes out, what it looks like. Because I always wondered, because my baby didn't have a speck of blood on him. I'm like, well, maybe because I was full of fluid. But then I don't know, because we don't know a lot. We don't know enough.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm even thinking about my 2 home births. I didn't have a lot of blood at all with either one of mine. After I birthed, there was bare minimum blood. The kids didn't have a lot of blood on them. They're full of the vernix, but they didn't have a lot of blood on them. And
like discoloration.
Yeah. But I mean, they were completely healthy. So I mean, I guess that wouldn't be any good. Well, I mean, but me being healthy and them being healthy and not seeing a lot of blood, opposed to someone that actually had or was diagnosed with it. Like you said, that's something I would be interested in, and I'm going to continue.
Put a microscope.
Yes.
Like now, like
you're gonna have me looking now for real.
Good.
So yes, ma'am.
These are the things that we need to reconnect about.
Yes, ma'am.
Because there has to be something that there's a correlation.
Right.
I would assume.
Right.
We only know we don't know yet. So
right.
We have to be the scientists or the doctors, trying to use practice within medicine,
right.
Applying the practice, which is observing.
Well, let me ask you another question, Lindsay. So again, I had a few clients that went in and asked for the test, and they were denied the testing, advising that, you're perfectly healthy. There's no reason for you to take the test. How do you push the
how do you advocate for yourself?
Yes.
You have to find the right obstetrician, internal medicine doctor.
Mm-hmm.
You might want to ask on group sites in the area that you live and say, which doctor has the peripartum cardiomyopathy prevention awareness, find that obstetrician, and then refer them to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a battle though, because like I said, there's even a woman who she like, you know, manages the cancer floor at UCLA, and she saved my life on February 14, 2018, and her daughter just gave birth not too long ago, and there's heart failure in her family, and she wants that test, and she's having a hard time. Women are being denied the test because they believe that they're healthy. How do they know that and can make that assumption unless they give the diagnosis? And it's not even
And
expensive.
my whole thing is, it doesn't matter if they are healthy. If I request it, you work for me. I pay you. So if I request it, give me the damn test. Excuse my language.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's where we have to be strong warriors in, we fight in what we believe in. And
Right.
and we want to know our blood number. We want to know our children's blood numbers. I mean, if this is
Right.
the only early diagnosis and now we know this information, why should we be denied it? Why should any
Right.
woman be denied it if it's so easy for a feline cat? So it's like really unfortunate. So, these conversations and some of the conversations and things that I say are uncomfortable or tough, or what women don't want to hear, or what they take it personal. And I'm not speaking where, and this is not about a personal attack to like anyone, like not to like the medical community, the nurses, the associations. This is just talking about the reality. And we take it personal as women. I take it personal because I had cardiac death. You take it personal because you watched a beautiful sister pass. And, here we're trying to advocate for ourselves and still being denied.
Right. Right.
And it's in America, and that's not okay, because we have the right to have health care worth for all pregnancies. Whether or not that woman wants it, that's her decision. That's her body. But at least educate her so then she can like make that decision for herself. But to withhold that educational information and not share it with everybody, and not share it with women in training. Education is where it starts. The younger we educate, the more that these are our future children. Right. It's our job as women to educate the young women, the young girls. The earlier the better. I mean, honestly, this is not something that is a bad thing. This is something that's a good thing. I mean, this is really good. We know the prevention. We know that there's diagnosis. And that's beautiful. That's amazing. We have it. Now let's apply it. Right. And so that's it. That is. And I know women are going to be hard on me, and they're going to be critical, and they're going to say things like that are, but it's like, they're not building the platform. They're not speaking up. They're not saying anything. And if they are, it's okay to say what the reality is. It's not blaming anybody, but it's just basically saying that there needs to be changed. And the only way that there can be change is by admitting what is really going on, and why women cannot move forward with a very high maternal mortality death rate in one of the most wealthiest countries in the world. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's at this point, enough women have suffered
Right.
and died.
Yes,
And I think
ma'am.
hopefully 2022 with change, and again, I'll work with you in every way. I'll send you the PowerPoint presentation. Give me just like one more week. I want to add a few more things
Okay.
to that.
Yes,
A few
ma'am.
more visual graphs, and I think that we can start there, and then we can hopefully prevent what has happened to your family. And many
Yes,
many
ma'am.
blessings, and more prayers and thoughts and love to you and your family on behalf of this disease.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're
I
so
appreciate
welcome.
you.
I appreciate you as well. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And we'll just let me know when you have some more time. And we'll schedule another time to sit and chat again.
Yeah, and you just message me if you want to coordinate something. With again an intro for every birth mom, and you have an approach and that
Yes.
you want to use. I'll help you create that, so this way there is a proper introduction to the awareness, to the possibilities of what needs to be applied, whether or not they want. That's fine. They have
Right.
the right, but they have to be educated. So
That's right.
yes,
I agree. So
you
yes,
and me
ma'am.
together, we will move mountains, make a big wave through this pregnancy movement together. And I you're like an earth angel to me, because I don't have a doorway to the birth world. I am not successful at it. I tried. Not successful.
Well, you know what? I have to stop you there, because reaching one person is better than reaching nobody. And you've reached me, and I am reaching people, just like you're doing. We're planting the seeds. Everybody ain't gonna want this plant that's gonna grow and harvest in the future, but we're planting the seed. So at least if you need to be able to come eat from the tree, is there. So
Yes.
I don't want you to think that what you're doing is not successful, because I promise you, it's other women out there like me that are listening to you, and we are talking, and like you said, we're going to make this big. We're going to make people be aware of it. So you're doing the work, Queen, and I give thanks to you for that, because you are setting the pathway. And again, my sister found you and brought you to me. So I know I know exactly what's happening is supposed to.
I remember I do remember you saying you were praying for just answers.
Yes.
You were asking your ancestors, and honestly, I don't know how we met. I don't know when we became friends. I don't even know. It's a big blur, but I do believe that that's why. It's because it's so it's because she's very powerful on the other side.
Yes.
And energy is very real, and I'm very connected. I still have one foot on the other side. I believe that there is a merge. I know that there's a merge. There's like where your soul being and your soul spirit comes together, and you literally, when they say you have one foot on the other side, that's what it is. I'm so heightened where I can feel things. I can sense things. I can dream things. And then, there's just, it's like not psychic, but it's energy, and energy never dies. And there's very clear signs of, excuse me, of like when they say a star seed, I truly believe that, they say it's I'm a Palladian star seed is what I was told, and I relate with that in every being, because my pregnancy experience did not start with maternal mortality. It started when I went to University of Pennsylvania, and there was an internship where I had to address a concern and solve the problem. On my way home that day, there was a woman that was giving birth on the street and screaming, and usually have my music on loud, and that one time I didn't. And I stopped, and I asked if she was okay, and she was giving birth. And so I said, well, come in and I'll take you and to where you need to go. And she says it was a place called St. John's clinic in Camden. And it was not a place where you would want to go and deliver. It was, it just needed a lot of update. And women were like literally on the cots, on the floors, and it was dirty, it wasn't clean. And so I noticed that it was down the street from Haddingfield. Camden in Philadelphia is right next to, Haddingfield. It's like in between Philly. And so I was very familiar with the Family Osborne Center because my best friend delivered there, or she had her visits there. And right across the street is Our Lady of Lourdes, where they give birth. So they would have their visits at the Family Osborne Center. So I took a bill that passed through Congress. Now, this was back in 1997 or 1998. And it was a bill that passed through Congress, and it was for sliding scale fees for women, to find out that there was a lot of women that would get raped on the streets, homeless women, or whatever, they would get raped. So they didn't really have a lot of options, and it's really sad in Camden. So it applied, it worked. I addressed a concern that women are giving birth on the streets. They need a place to have their visits and checkups, and then deliver at a hospital where they would be covered. I coordinated this, and I'm a Jewish girl, but I still went to the father of Camden Catholic High School, and I recruited the seniors, and then the seniors will always recruit the 11th graders. So the program is still continuing today, where the students are getting internship credits for, and I developed an early literacy program in the pediatric center at the Family Osborne Center. And it's amazing what these students have developed as well, and how it's long term. So here, this was over 25 years ago, and now fast forward. Oh, that was also my internship for continuing, because I was a non-matriculation student. I non-matriculated, and which you can do, because I would have never I wanted the best education, and I knew that the University of Pennsylvania is where I wanted to go. And everything that I was always surrounded was with pregnancy. And I was getting my social work degree at the School of Policy and Practice in Social Work. And hold on, I went blank. And my undergrad was People Helping People, which is also bachelor's in human services. And I was in education K through 6. So here now, going back almost 30 years ahead, I survived a maternal mortality. So I was educated on a bill, how to design a bill, how to create a bill, how to start a nonprofit, how to, do all that. And then I ended up going to Hollywood, working on top TV shows, as my camera just went out, but that's fine. TV shows. And I just said, I'm not taking any more TV shows. I've been turning down TV shows. I've been doing this for over 18 years, working on top TV shows. And I have collaborated the education with filming and being a filmmaker, taking my company Hero Locations as you know, donations to give to women, helping women, saving their lives, getting them co-pays, to developing all of this platform where my locations is supporting, and my company in Hollywood is supporting the nonprofit, as well as applying what I've learned at the University of Pennsylvania, what I learned in my undergrad at Lynn University, in Boca Raton, Florida. They gave me the skills of the background of human services, which is my degree there. So, and all of this knowledge, it's almost as if life from the beginning of time, and my mom always called me the mother hen. I always had, you know, best friends. I watched my godson, Brian. The doctor gave him right to me. I was in there with my best friend. She was 16 years old when she gave birth. And it was just her and I in the delivery room. And so I've always been surrounded around pregnancies my entire life. So I feel like this has been planned before I've even been born, as if like it was something that is my mission. It's like my life purpose, you know, having all those skills until now, and then meeting you and talking to you today and bringing it to the present moment to change women's history with being able to apply all that education and knowledge, exactly what I preach. Applying education and knowledge. We have to apply what we learn. The anti-pro-BNP test is what we have learned. It is the prevention for maternal mortality because it's the only test that will determine early diagnosis to save lives. So now we need to apply it, as I'm applying everything in this one area of expertise, and to put it out there as one woman reaching out to other women to say, together we can do this. We just need to take the steps and to just demand and stay strong and be true to ourselves as women. Not that we're insulting anybody or blaming this person or blaming that person or blaming, you know, the nurses or blaming, you know, the medical community or blaming the doulas or blaming this or that. It's not about that. It's about now understanding that there won't be blame if it's applied. You know, if it's applied, then it won't, then there's no more carelessness. There's no more withholding information, and then the tune will change. Where right now, I'm not that evolved until there's change. I have a lot of anger, frustration, sadness that drive me to promote education, the training and applying with what we now know. And as a doula, and you say that there has never been anything mentioned within your trainings, and you got it from the ACOG. That was my dog, my puppy. He just like threw up a little bit. Are you okay? Who is the person that designs the curriculum for the training for birth keepers? Where do you get your information from?
My information, for my training class, my personal information just came from my instructor who I received my training from. Her name was Dr. Amina Ali. And just from my understanding of different programs, different women that I've worked with that, you know, have gained their certification through DONA, CAPA, we all pretty much have the same
information. It's about stages of labor, comfort measures, different complications that can occur in pregnancy, breathing techniques, different things of that nature. It's all about the informational, educational part to assist your mom. That piece of the education they completely miss. Like nobody in all of the complications.
Like, do you go through?
That's not something that we learn about.
Do you have like an online training where, you have to, like, when you answer questions, like even when you send your children to school or whatnot, you have to say, you check mark that you have read this, or circle yes or no that you have read this, and initial it that you are aware of, this disease. Or do they have anything like that, like in the curriculum that, they want you, it stands out, and then asks you like maybe a question about it to make sure that you read it. And if not, if you got the answer wrong, it can like bounce you back to like, to that question, or to that, to that description of what, let's say, this breastfeeding, or I don't know, anything. Like, is there any type of communication within training to make sure that things are actually captured and understood? And if not, brings it back to nope, you got that wrong.
Yes.
Read it again. Or maybe if not develop
into my training to ensure that my doulas are aware of this condition, and to, as you stated, not to put fear in your Mother Earth, but to put awareness, because so her know, she can request diligence and take an effort to get her numbers. And of course, we're going to work on it to where it's not going to be a decline. Like, you're going to have to give me a reason as to why you can't do this, especially if I'm willing to pay out of pocket, regardless of what insurance I have. If I'm
yeah.
cannot give me this test, because telling me is unacceptable now. I understand this completely now. Like, you can't tell me no, especially know my numbers. How can you ruin my life? I mean, that's all it boils down to. You're playing with people's lives.
And
if it only costs $15, and babies and families, like,
we'll even pay, the fund. That's why we're here. We're, we don't ask for money, we give. We would like support, because we have a lot to accomplish, and we're working with what we have. But we're available, which is what we have been doing. I mean, there's on, literally on our like, if it wasn't, I have messages that if you didn't pay my $50 copay, I wouldn't be here today, because I would not be seen by this electrophysiologist. There are real life and death scary moments, and you don't have anyone to go to. And I answer the phone, and I'm like, I listen, and I'm like, okay, they show me the receipts. They show me what they're, this is real, so if somebody doesn't even have the money for $15, or, if, let's say, you have, I don't know, that month you have like 30 pregnancies. I mean, I don't know how many pregnancies do you have per month? Because that can add up.
How many pregnancies?
Yeah, how many pregnancies?
I only I do 2 to 3 pregnancies a month.
Okay.
I have 5 kids, so I have to keep the workload low.
Okay, so that's $45 a month. No, I'm sorry, you have to times that
I would be
times,
willing to cover if
no,
they can't
you have to
afford it.
times that by, uh, let's say 4. That's $180 a month with 3, because you want to
Right.
give the BNP test not just one time. You have to
Mhm.
give the BNP test, either 3 or 4 times, because you definitely have to compare the BNP, as early as 10 weeks pregnant, 25 weeks pregnant, 35 weeks pregnant, or closer to, 40, depending on how long the baby's still there. And then you compare it again after the woman gives childbirth. So you want to compare all of those. So it's not just $15. It's $15, a few, per person, a few times. That can add up. So that's what we're also here to help. We know that it's a lot, but hopefully, we can do this at home. Go, and not
And
have
what,
to.
maybe for 16 pregnancy.
Mm-hmm. You could buy a whole kit for, like, let's say the entire 9 months of
Right.
pregnancy.
Right. And to have a
Yeah, like maybe like, $40 for, like, I don't know, like 9 sticks or 10 sticks or something, anything. I don't know. Well, we'll develop something. We'll come up with something. But yeah, these are the conversations that I think are good to kind of like talk about and brainstorm, because there's so much that we can do to develop for saving lives, literally.
I wish I was like the science, like this the I'm trying to think of the science kid, one of the science kids, that I would love to try to create thing that you're referring to, because like you said, of course I don't have how
You're
to even
breaking up.
begin to put something together like that, but like you said, it's already a foundation for it. It can be designed just like the other testings, all the other home testings that you do for marijuana, for for this, for pregnancy, like every type of home testing that you do, it looks like a pregnancy test.
So, that's the other thing. I'm
I
glad
would be interested in trying to get someone.
Yeah. Getting someone.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you mentioned that's something that's common when a woman, the most common thing that has also come out of a woman's mouth when they're PPCM and there's zero awareness is they give them drug tests, because they have drug tests available, but they don't have the BNP test available.
Right.
And women are insulted. They're like, why are you giving me a drug test? I'm pregnant. I'm giving birth like any day. Why would you think that I'm on drugs? But it's, huh? You're breaking up. Oh no. Did I lose you? I lost you. I think I lost her. Hello.
I'm sorry, you was breaking up a little bit there.
That's okay. We'll edit it.
It looks like you're on mute.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you. Yeah, you were breaking up. I couldn't hear you. What did you just say?
No, I was just saying that, it's just, I was just kind of piggyback you said as far as the different testing that they, a drug test, I do understand that there are some that are on hardcore drugs. And if that's something state mandate Mm.
You broke up again. Oh no.
Like, yeah, we got white plugs because it just, I was when I first learned about this condition, why this is happening. Nobody is doing anything to the condition.
Right.
So
Shame on them.
yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Sad but true. And again, this is not an attack on anybody. You know, this is not a blame game, but this needs to change.
It does. It does. I completely agree. And that's why I've told you, I'm going to do my part.
Good.
You
And
each
I
one
look.
teach one. You've taught me. So try to teach them, and we'll make more noise. But response the birth community, whether it can work,
You're breaking up so bad I can't hear you.
it'll be we shouldn't be there. I'm gonna fill in those pamphlets. Sorry. I was just saying I want to go to different doctor offices. I'm gonna print out the information and just start dropping information off, because
Yeah,
again,
hang them up in bathrooms. You know, I was even thinking like, you know, when you go to give your, you know, glucose test or whatnot, you know, so many women have to go to the bathroom. You know, if you put it there, if you know, we have flyers. You know, do you feel this and this and this? You know, we'll do better with our flyers. You know, any ideas is helpful too, because it's like, yeah, I would even say getting permission from the hospital and saying, can we put this in the labor delivery floors?
Right.
Can I educate labor and delivery? Because, you know, it's about timing. The timing of catching a woman is at a critical, you know, it's 1 minute can go by and that'll be it. You know what I'm saying? When your heart is being suffered and crushed, every minute counts. Every breath is important. So, you know, I feel like labor and delivery management, the head, the lead needs to start, you know, educating the floor. Most definitely. Because they're the ones that are sending home the women. They're sending women home from the hospital to die.
Right.
Labor and delivery. You're not induced yet, or we can't induce you yet. You know, this happens so common. It's not rare. It's just rare for awareness. So that's what we can. And no, it's I thank you so much today for your time and working with me on this journey through, you know, changing women's history as well as our health and wellness standard, you know, screening labs and testings. And one pregnancy at a time. And thank you for all your encouragement and support and on me with this. And hopefully hopefully sooner rather than later, but we can look back on this and say, gosh, remember when, and now look how far history has come. Hopefully within, like, you know, sooner, but even in 15 years from now or 10 years from now, hopefully there'll be a significant change for the preventions for maternal mortality moving forward, you know, through our future. Leaving the past in the past. and moving forward.
Mm.
Thank you. And I look
Yes,
forward to another
we're
interview.
moving towards the future, and this. Well, I'm sure you can say the same if yes, yes, ma'am. Thank you, Lindy.
Thank you so much. I loved our conversation.
Yes, ma'am.
Again, my deepest condolences.
Thank you.
Sorry. I will always, just keep the family in my prayers and daily prayers and blessings to you and your family. And I really do look forward to, shedding light to this, to all,
Yes,
for
ma'am.
all women. So thank you for helping me with
Yes,
this
ma'am.
process.
And thank you.
And God bless.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you for everything that you're doing. We appreciate you too, Miss Lindsay.
Thank you. For years to come, I will never stop. So thank you. I appreciate that. Many blessings, and God bless. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us and listening to the PPCM Fund podcast. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. PPCM's Painful Truth is made possible through the generous support of donors like you. Help us spread the awareness by donating at ppcmfund.com or click the link below to become a member through Ko-fi. Have a great day.